Hello, everyone, and welcome to our channel. I'm Mark.
And I'm Rob.
And today we're going to talk about the fact that Caitlin Clark won Time Magazine Athlete of the Year and why she deserved it. So, hey, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so and make Rob happy. And when you do, make them hit the notification bell so you get notified of our next video. So, as probably everyone knows that's watching this video, Caitlin Clark was voted Time Athlete of the Year. Not sure what the criteria is, but I would think it has to do with ability and impact, which in both cases, Caitlin Clark should have won. And she had an advantage because she had her 2/3 of her college season in the end of it, plus also her first year in the WNBA, Rob. So she had a lot of impact and she had a lot of accomplishments in 1 year. So I think she obviously deserved this, and she was the obvious choice to me.
Yeah, from college it transited into WNBA, which she had a great freshman or rookie year, being rookie of the year, and also breaking all kinds of records during the time. Despite what she went up against, she still came out on top.
And Sports Illustrated has not announced their sports person of the year yet, but I suspect she's going to win that. Newsweek did just the opposite. At least they didn't announce one for I don't know even if they have that award. But in terms of influencers, they put Angel Reese on the cover, which was ridiculous because Caitlin Clark is a much bigger influence in sports. Caitlin Clark is a much bigger influence in women's basketball and in sports in general than Angel Reese, but they were being overly woke, is what I call it. And it was silly that they did that. And this tells the difference, I think, between Time Magazine and Newsweek right now. I mean, I grew up reading Newsweek because that's my parents subscribed to. So now I'm embarrassed that after what they put out last time.
I don't know about being overly woke, that term, but I'll just say overly not paying attention to what's going on. That's what I call it.
They know they did that on purpose, so that's why I think it's overly woke. But Time Magazine got it right. I don't think they got it right in everything they wrote in the article. I think they're mainstream media and they're afraid to say some of the things that we're going to say today and in future videos and what other podcasters are going to say because we don't have to answer anybody. But they were afraid to call out certain things. They didn't. But I want to go through the article in order. Today, we're not going to cover Caitlin Clark's comment about having white privilege. That's going to be in our next video. But it will be covered. And we'll have more than one video on this because Caitlin Clark finally had a long interview. So I thought it was nice to find out how she really felt about these things, although she wasn't completely honest about everything. Yeah. She was pretty forthcoming on most of it. So we did get some indication in terms of how she felt. The first thing they talked about, Rob, was the influence that she had on the growth of the WNBA and also in sports in general. And they asked her, and she said that she thought if they had to define her year in one word, she said historic. So there wasn't any false humility there. And I agree with her.
Oh, yeah.
And it was historic. And I think it's rather obvious it was. And she had more of an influence on the WNBA than anyone has had in the sport in a long time. I don't know if it's more than what Michael Jordan had, because Michael Jordan had the advantage of Magic and Larry already getting it going. But she did have a big advantage because they were going from nothing almost to a lot.
Well, I think she brought over what she brought over what people who already followed her in college, and then she brought that transcended over to WNBA. But plus, she brought in people who would never ever watched WNBA, and even with you, Mark, you finally like, wait a minute, why am I covering and talking about women's basketball? And right. why is that? It's because of her
college level, and she's not even in college anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's true. Of course, Time Magazine, because they're mainstream media, had to say, to be clear, Clark had plenty of help. I don't think she had plenty of help. She had a little bit of help. That's what I have a problem with. They said the WNBA was already enjoying positive momentum. Yes, a little bit of positive momentum, not much, going into the 2024 season, thanks to MVPs like Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart, and some of Clark's fellow rookies like Angel Reese and Cameron Brink brought their own followings. That's true. They brought a following, but it didn't transfer into much in the seats or much on TV in terms of the television ratings. And the problem with the MVPs like Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart is they didn't move the needle, and they're really not likable, and they don't have exciting games. That's the problem, Rob.
They didn't, and also the main thing, which is the main thing with any kind of business or corporation, they didn't bring in the revenue that she did. No, they didn't bring in half the revenue like that she brought in. Then they didn't even really. They could have brought in more if they had promoted her a little bit more, but they were also very scared to do that, to promote her, But that's their fault. But I mean, yeah, she even then still she brought in the revenue, which helped the WNBA be a little more popular.
Well, they did go on and said, even during a period when investment across women's sports is surging, team evaluations are on the rise, and fan interest and engagements are all-time highs. Her arrival was transformative. So they did give her credit. At times, anyways, her year proved unpleasant. And they said Clark found herself party to raging debates, even though she rarely, if ever, did anything to perpetrate them. And then she said, it's something interesting. I tell people I feel like I'm the most controversial person, but I'm not. It's just because of all the storylines that surround me. I literally try to live and treat everybody in the same respectful, kind way. It just confuses me at times. So I find that interesting. She's right, Rob. She's not controversial.
No.
They make her controversial because of the fact that they're jealous and envious of her. She's pretty much straightforward type of person and just tries to be nice, easygoing, and just wants to play basketball. How is that controversy?
Right. But then she always, and with her, she doesn't get caught up in that, like you said, all that controversy, all the stuff that's going around her, or circling around her. She doesn't get caught up in that. I mean, she was way better than you and I, as far as I know, as far as dealing with what happened to her. I definitely would have spoken out. I don't know, maybe when she retires or whatever, she'll come out and just like say how she was abused. She was abused mentally and physically this year.
Yeah, she didn't say that in this article. In fact, we'll get to that. She said she didn't feel she was targeted, but she was targeted. I don't think she was targeted maybe as much as some people thought, but she was definitely targeted. And then they said that her gender played a role in the level of scrutiny. And, first started out with that reporter who had that cringy attempt to a flirtation. He got suspended. They talked about that. And then they talked about the exclusion in the Olympic team. And it spurred her so-called defenders to push racist, misogynist, anti-LGBTQ narratives or even threaten WNBA players directly. And she calls this toxicity upsetting and gross. But during this season, she addressed the discourse mostly when asked about it in courtside interviews or at a press conference rather than proactively engaging with it.
Right.
In fact, she was like that with everything, Rob. Mm-hmm. She just waited until someone asked her. She didn't have a long interview like this, which is, to me, confusing why she didn't. But that was her choice. I think she was just trying to play ball, and she was too busy.
Yeah, so, they would ask her what did Cheryl Swoops say, what did this person say, and she would say like, "Oh, like Cheryl Swoops was a great player," and go on and she would praise all the haters. She would praise them. Even getting jabbed in the eye, it could have actually could have ended her career if it had done correctly. Thank goodness that it didn't really get far into the retina or scratch the iris or whatever. I mean, that could have been her career right there. But she still, didn't go off on Carrington, who did that.
No, and she said, when they asked about it, she said, it's not something I can control. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it because she's not on social media. My problem with this statement that they talked about her defenders pushing racist, misogynistic, and anti-LGBT narratives, is that they don't talk about any racism that was done to her. Some of the mistreatment on her was because of her race, because of the fact that she's straight. So I just don't think it's a balanced article. I don't think they talk about what was done wrong by some of the haters of Caitlin Clark on the internet and in YouTube videos and YouTube comments, and by the women in the league who mistreated her. So that's my problem with the article. It's too mainstream attitude. It's afraid to call out what was done to her during the year.
Right. They didn't mention and like what's always happens. They were blaming the Caitlin Clark fans, calling them, saying how racist they were towards the other black players. They never mentioned that. Rather, like, wait a minute, you didn't mention anything about how the racism going towards her by their fans. You just mentioned all those Caitlin Clark fans are going after Angel Reese and Angel Wilson and the black athletes. But I'm like, oh, wait a minute, are you not looking at what's coming towards her?
No, apparently not, because it doesn't matter if it's Caitlin Clark. Of course, they had to give a quote from a scholar of African American history at American University, Teresa Runstelter. All of this is really speaking to something much larger than Caitlin Clark. It's speaking to an unresolved issues on race, gender, and sexuality in American society. And at this particularly fraught moment in our political landscape, that's what she felt about that. Well, I'll let you comment on that.
Well, yeah, it's my thing about that is that, yeah, racism. I mean, to me, I almost, and I've traveled around the world and stuff, and so I find that America puts race more value into race than any other country at least I've been to, and but then what I like I discussed with you off the air is that this society now, as far as these young kids, there's a gap. I mean, there's people who are on our age, a little bit younger, maybe 10 years younger, who think about race the first thing out of their mouth. But these young kids who I work with, in the 20s, whatever, they don't care. They really don't care. Like when Obama was president, I cried because I never thought in my lifetime I'd see a black person. With the young kids, they're like, "Oh yeah, he won. Okay." I mean, I have a Chinese principal. I have a gay teacher. I have this. So they don't really care. So the race thing that she said, that they try to, we always put that into everything. I don't know why our country does that. Every little thing, this white player, this black player, this white. It really, I mean, I love this country, but that's what really annoys me as far as that goes.
Well, there was some joy, apparently, in terms of her year. They talked about her talent brought communities together. SRO arenas and sports bars, living rooms, social media celebrate her fire, her unselfish play, and her ability to score in inconceivable ways when she needed to. Clark certainly fed off this electricity. She said, "You feel powerful. Instantly, everyone goes crazy. People are invested in the game. They love the game, and that's what makes it so fun. These people aren't supporting women's sports to check out a box. It's going to be the new normal."
I agree with her on that. If you've been watching college basketball, it's still early in the season. If you're watching college basketball and these young players, sophomores, freshmen, women's basketball, how they're playing, how they're scoring, it definitely, like I said, in about 2 or 3 years, it's already exploding. It's gonna freaking just blow up. It's gonna blow up, I think.
I think Clark's popularity helped women's college basketball grow even more too, in addition to the NBA. Mm. And I think the overflow is existing this year, and there's some good, exciting players, and I think that's why people are paying attention more so than the men's. Then she talked about her relationship with Taylor Swift, who she's a big fan of, and of course she met Swift's mother and her boyfriend, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. Swift gave Clark 4 bags of tour merchandise with a note saying Clark was inspiring to watch from afar. And she said, "Trav and I are excited to get to a Fever game now that the tour is winding down," and invited Clark to attend a Chiefs game with her. So she's definitely friends with Taylor Swift. And, that's what happens. A lot of big stars become friends with each other if they like each other. So,
well, I think a lot of people, like the pros, they want to get her autograph. Like, pro NBA players want to talk to her and get her autograph. Caitlin Clark's autograph. And then, like I said, well, being from the Midwest, of course she's going to be people are saying, "Oh, she's just doing that because of Taylor Swift." Well, she's from Indiana, and the only closest pro team would be the Chiefs. So as far as football, so right. Why not? Why wouldn't she be supporting the Chiefs? So,
well, that's what they talk about next, Rob, is where she was, and she grew up in West Des Moines, Iowa. She says, I always seemed destined for greatness. Father, Brent, is an executive vice president at a company that sells and distributes agricultural and industrial parts. And I didn't know this. Her mother, Anna, is a retired marketing executive. So people always say Clark majors in marketing. That's why she does so well with the press and how she handles everything. I didn't know her mother was a retired marketing executive. So she knows a lot about marketing. And she's obviously giving Caitlin Clark good advice. I just found that out in this article.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. No wonder. Yeah.
And then they had a quote from Jan Jensen, the assistant coach, who's now the head coach at Iowa. She said you could see her swag, the way she walked in a Pee Wee game. When everybody's like, your shot at the rim, let's go get ice cream. She's like, no, I don't want any freaking ice cream. I want to win. That's when the Caitlin Clark mission began. She was talking about, she saw her play in middle school. So Caitlin Clark started early. And she talked about her. And she talked about her being from a Catholic family, wanted to go to Notre Dame, but she wanted to stay home. And then she ended up playing for Lisa Bluter, and the rest is history.
Right.
And they talked about, and this was an interview with Jan Jensen recently too, how they had the coaching staff worked with Clark to improve her body language, showing her video of her outbursts and how she reined it in for the most part. In her junior year, she was knocking off undefeated South Carolina in the national semis to reach the finals against LSU, and that's when the mania really started. Of course, it started in the game before that when she got the 40-point triple-double in a game that they won. So if you like this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. Hit the notification bell when you do so you get notified of our next video. And we'll talk about this, if you want, at our next live show, which is every Monday except for major holidays, 6 to 8 Eastern time. And you can call in for the show, so it's pretty cool. And if you want to donate to this channel, there's super chats and super thanks down below. And there's a link to PayPal. And we'll see you in the next video.
Peace out.